Welcome to Looking Back with Nancy as we explore the mid-century, the 50s and 60s, the life of the baby boomers and the Gen X's. I think that's the next one. And there is so much to find out about. And I'm learning, if you watch any of my shorts, I'm learning all kinds of stuff about that era. Things that I was blissfully naive about. In fact, I prided myself on being naive. But it is eye-opening. But I wanted to start and share with something. I wanted to tell you about my mom and my dad, they were both wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And I just lost my dad a couple years ago. But Mom has been gone for 20 years. And she grew up in a strict Scots-Irish, German-Dutch home. The Scots-Irish mother was fiercely Scots-Irish. She had that Presbyterian, stiff back, and she was a school teacher. And my mom had the effects of that. My grandmother and that heritage, they love you fiercely, but you may never ever have the confidence and understanding that that was true. And I think my mom spent most of her life trying to find out for sure, did her mom love her? And so many of us forget to share that with our families, don't we? So anyways, she grew up in this home, a wonderful home. My grandparents were amazing. But she had an American dream, even though it was not her childhood, because she spent the summer often with an aunt and uncle who had a farm out in Pennsylvania. And she got dirty and she ran around and she had friends, and then she was a country girl in the summer. They had chickens, and Aunt Hattie taught her all kinds of crafting things, which were not crafting, they just were survival back then, weren't they? And cooking, and she would talk about her Aunt Hattie all the time. And so I'm realizing that is really where her foundation became. And Mom's American dream was to be a wife, a mama, and just spread joy with her family. And she was the mother hen. She was thrilled when everybody was home all through the years. And I remember even years and years later, as we all had children, and I had grandchildren by then, and she said, I just really want my kids to come home. And she really wasn't even meaning our spouses. She wanted her flock in the house. That's where she got joy. What I'm realizing is she was missing what she was called to do and what her purpose was. You see, just the reason we're going into this is because this week I was introduced to a word that many, I would assume most of you have not heard, and I understand it is all over social media. It's called Tradwife, and there's a new trend where people want to become the traditional housewife. And my mother was probably one of the model first traditional housewives, not the ones on television who were controlled by the media and commercials and, the control that they still have right now. But the beautiful life that we all thought was supposed to be the way it was, I lived that. I know you didn't all live that, but I did. Because that was my mom's American dream, and she made it happen. And she and my dad were amazing. They had 6 children. 6. 3 years before I was born, they were trying, and they were feeling a little desperate, and another 5 years before the rest of the children came. So I was this only child that was adored. I was spoiled. The sad part is, even though I learned so much from my mom, I made all my clothes in school, I knew how to knit, I could crochet a little bit, baking, cooking, everything. She was still doing crafts at the end of her life. So she was the traditional wife because that was really her love and passion. And as I look back, as many of us look back and think and evaluate who our parents were and what they were, there's a real moment of sadness because we took them for granted. We didn't always treat them the way they deserved. We did not give them the time in our adult life that they deserved. And that's heartbreaking. And as soon as they're gone, if your parents are still around, then I encourage you, get on that phone and ask them questions. Talk to them about their childhood and those things that happened, but you really don't know about them, because there's so much value and amazing stuff in their life that will enrich your life. So What happened was at 23, like mom fell in love with, she found the love of her life when she was 16 and had to wait till she graduated. And she was 19 graduation because of when her mama, teacher mama, should have helped tutor her through because of illnesses. She just let her repeat that grade. There was some pain and hurt from that. So anyway, at 19, she marries the love of her life. And at 23, I found the love of my life and got married and became an instant mother of 3 young children. But I went to work from day one, which I was already still working. And I think my mom at that point was understanding that the women of the 70s, the girls of the 70s, were going to be working, and they most like, well, I was a working mama because I didn't have babies, but the trend had changed. I know she struggled with a cousin who was putting her child in daycare. It was something that did not sit well with the 50s, 60s housewives. They are to stay home and nurture their babies, and life changed. So it didn't just change where I became a mother. I became the person, like maybe some of you did this, where we all thought we knew better than her. For some of us, it started when we were teenagers, but we thought we knew better. And here I have children that are growing up with my siblings, and I'm finding out things that I think my mother should know, and she should be taking care of that. My mother never came back and said, Nancy, I think that you need to understand some things that are going on with your children. She'd learned, I didn't. It caused some problems. It's probably some hurts. Hurts like, why didn't I appreciate her more? But it was amazing. She was that traditional housewife, and I was the new age. Yeah, I think a new age started back then too. I was the new age mama. And so there was some differences. So now as the women are thinking of wanting to be traditional housewives, who was right? Which was right? For me, it worked because my kids were always in school and I did not have long hours, and I worked a mile and a half from home. So it worked. Do I think my children know that I love them? I hope so. I hope so, but sometimes you wonder. But that was the life of my mom, and she and dad had a glorious life. Oh, but here's what I wanted to tell you. What I realized was when she hit 50, probably a little bit, when she hit 50 and we were all pretty much out of the house, she had that issue that all women have now, but we didn't talk about it because it wasn't a big thing. We just lived through it. That menopause thing that now really takes up the whole internet. And everybody's trying to struggle through it, and we just kind of like got through it. Mom had a rough time, but nobody knew what to do for it. And so she really spent an awful lot of time on the recliner. She became more inactive. And as I look back, I realize it's because her joy was her children, and we'd all left. And so now, what was her purpose? And she wasn't feeling great. And so she really started to decline much sooner than many people. So I encourage you, if your parents are still around, get on that phone, spend that afternoon and ask them questions, even if they don't want to. And open your phone and start recording, because there's things you're going to want to know. And here's the other thing that I kind of missed is when I hit 50, when she hit 50, she started to decline. I hit 50, that new season, that was a whole new life. And do you know how she would have loved to know what was going on? And so many things I wanted to share with her and tell her, because I know she would have had a thrill. So that's what the story of my childhood with my mama and my grandmama and my sweet daddy who just left me a couple of years ago. So I'd love to hear, was your mom strict? Was she carefree? Did she work? Tell me about your mom and your relationship with her. Let's work this out and find out what we missed. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe. I want to go through this journey with the rest of you. I'll talk to you soon.